Hello, everyone. I'm Therese Bottomly, editor of The Oregonian and Oregon Live. This is Beat Check with The Oregonian. Today, I've invited Kristine de Leon, one of our business reporters, to talk about Portland's Lloyd Center and a recent announcement about its future. Kristine, welcome back to Beat Check.
Hello, happy to be here.
So you've been covering the decline of Lloyd Center as a shopping mall and various proposals for the site, which is in inner Northeast Portland. So describe Lloyd Center to us currently. What's the mall like these days?
These days, the mall is I guess the best way to phrase it is that the mall is in flux. It's in transition. It's largely empty. It's not like what it used to be in its heyday. A lot of the anchor tenants have closed over the last 10 years. But in recent years, there's been an influx of independent small businesses, and they're local businesses that have relocated there from Old Town or from Mall 205, or they're new and they want to check out how to run a brick and mortar business.
So a bit of a mixed bag, not anywhere near its heyday, but not entirely empty either. So why is Lloyd Center important to Portland? I mean, what's its history? How did we get here?
So it's important because the mall is centrally located. It's not too far from downtown. It's surrounded by the Moda Center to the west, and the convention center. It's along like 3 max train lines, and it's not too far. Well, I guess when it was built, it was one of the biggest shopping malls of the time, or that's what its owners said. All the stores there, or its retail offerings, once rivaled the downtown retail core. And also, it's significant because they have this skating ice rink that once was a training center for Tonya Harding, and it's like a gathering. It's a big gathering center for inner Northeast Portland.
Yeah, so it's, it started out with huge headlines when it first opened and was sort of at the advent of the mall as a shopping phenomenon. And then, once those of us who grew up here remember the big skating rink, Nordstrom at one end and Sears at the other, and Meyer and Frank back in the day, and JCPenney. So it really has changed a lot, but has, a lot going for it as well. Like you said, a central location with lots of transit. So what is being proposed for the site? What's being proposed for the future of the mall?
Right. So its owners, which is KKR Real Estate Finance Trust, it was a lender to the Texas-based real estate firm that that basically owed a lot of debt because of all the renovations. But it pushed them all into foreclosure. KKR took over. Urban Renaissance Group, which is a developer based in Seattle, was brought onto the team. And for nearly 2 years, they were pretty silent about the mall, what their long-term vision was. And last week, they just revealed that they plan to redevelop the site and eventually tear down the mall. Well, most of the mall, as you see it today, will be gone. And the plan is to put in apartment buildings or residential buildings, streets to connect that 23.6 acres of land, to connect it with the grid. Right now, there's no roads that go through the mall, and they want to include open spaces and retail and entertainment venues. and bike paths and pedestrian walkways.
So Bridgeport Village has roads going through it. Streets of Tanasbourne has roads going through it. So it's not, I mean, it's a lot different from what we know of Lloyd Center, but it's not unheard of for a mall to have, a street way through it. The Renaissance folks from Seattle, they actually were the ones who redeveloped the old Oregonian building at 1320 Southwest Broadway and our old printing plant over by the stadium. I'm not aware of quite this sort of development in Portland that they've been part of, but certainly building renovations with retail on the bottom and offices or other spaces above. So very experienced outfit, and their plans, which you can see on OregonLive.com/business, the renderings certainly look interesting. So is there anything else we need to know about the players here in terms of, their track record or their other projects they've worked on?
Right, yeah, so they're bringing in ZGF architects, and they were involved in a lot of projects in the Portland skyline. They were involved in they're working on the expansion of the Portland International Airport. They designed the Tom McCall Waterfront Park, and they've also and Urban Renaissance Group has also brought in a landscape architect from New York that designed the High Line, and that's like a 1.5-mile walkway through Manhattan, and it's really popular.
Yeah, very popular, very crowded. It needs to be longer. I think they were constrained by the existing infrastructure there, but really a neat project in New York City. So what do we know about the skating rink, and what do we know about the nearby movie theater complex there? What's going to happen there?
So they didn't speak much about their plans for the Regal Theater or the Regal Cinemas, but that is on their property. The adjacent parking lot that's empty, that's pretty noticeable, is not under their ownership. It's owned by a real estate firm called Mosaic, and they actually have it out for sale right now. And I asked if Urban Renaissance Group had any plans to buy it, but they do not. They feel like they have enough land, but whether
and
they're going to move,
that's the lot between the cinemas and Holiday Park.
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the skating rink will remain in some form, it sounded like.
Yes. Yeah. So they'll likely be moved if they when the mall goes away. But yes, they've so Urban Renaissance Group and KKR had numerous outreach meetings with the community, and they did a poll and received 600 or more than 600 responses, and most of them voiced like wanting housing and to make sure that the skating rink is still there.
So let's talk about the surrounding neighborhood. I mean, the Lloyd district is one of the denser in the city now, after years of new buildings. So they're talking about potentially thousands of housing units as part of this development. So how will the surrounding neighborhood absorb the development, do you think?
Oh, I guess well, what do you mean by?
Well, it's a lot of new people coming into a pretty small area. I mean, I know there is existing transit, but I would imagine that the neighborhood was concerned about increased traffic and increased just density, and I just don't know if there are any studies done about how well positioned the Lloyd district is to absorb all those new housing units as they envision.
Right. Well, so their plan right now is it could change. Right. So I guess the way that they have phrased it is that they have the potential to bring in thousands of housing units. It's unclear how many units that they would bring. They have hired some firms to do a market analysis.
That makes sense. So they're going to phase it in and sort of see if the demand is there and how it changes the neighborhood as they add units. That makes sense. It sounded like they were going to start by deconstructing some of the existing mall, maybe some of those large parking garages that for some people create a bit of a barrier for entry. So I assume we'll see the shape of it more once they start deconstructing some of what's existing there. So what all has to happen for this to come to fruition? I imagine there's a lot of planning commission or, city approvals or what have you. What are the big hurdles they have to get over?
Well, so they have to they've just recently submitted an application to the Planning Design Committee for review, and they need to get it approved. So they need to get their design approved, then they need to get some building permits, probably demolition permits, lots of permitting.
And it sounds like they're going to try to keep much of it open during construction, that the people who have their shops in there now will not be displaced. That's kind of the vision?
Yes. So one big part of this is that the mall will be open for business during the transformation, and it's not all going away at once. They're starting off with the parking structures, and so it'll be years before they hit the mall. And so right now they are currently offering like 6-month, 1-year leases. So short-term leases to businesses.
So as this goes in phases, what is the timeline for when it's all like completely done, like when the vision is realized? What are we talking about in terms of years?
Oh, they did not. This is so early in the phase that they didn't have. They gathered that it might be sometime end of next year when they get all their permits approved, and then maybe like end of next year is when they would start like any changes. But
so so this is, so you're talking end of 2024 for even them to get permission to begin demolishing structures or changing what's there. And then who knows when they actually start, and then who knows when they actually finish building out all of what they envision. So we're talking about multi-year project here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Kristine, for sharing your expertise on Lloyd Center and what the plans are for that shopping mall in Northeast Portland. And with that, I'll call it a wrap. Thanks so much for listening to Beat Check with the Oregonian. If you like this show, give us a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcasts. It really helps people find the show. Tell a friend, help spread the word. The best way to support our journalism and stories like this one is with a subscription to Oregon Live. You can do that at OregonLive.com/pod support. Until next time.